Good morning, everybody. Seems like the mic is working now. Welcome. Welcome to the second Women in Analytics Conference. We are so excited to have you all here today. This is our first time doing the conference at this scale, and we couldn't be more excited. We have a spectacular day planned. We have amazing speakers who will be covering some excellent content. So I just want to kick things off and tell you guys a little bit about Women in Analytics, kind of what our mission is, what we're trying to accomplish here today and beyond, and then some boring logistics to make sure you guys can make the most of your day. So my name is Katie Sasso. I am one of the co-coordinators of the event for today, and I'm a data scientist here in Columbus at the Columbus Collaboratory. And Reagan Avon is the founder and also the co-coordinator. You'll see her here in a second. She put on the first WAI conference back in 2016, which I attended. She was actually an undergrad senior at the time, which was extremely impressive to see. And the conference was an awesome event. I remember really kind of being struck by her passion for analytics as a field, for promoting diversity within analytics. So the first event was much smaller in scale. It was an evening event, and it was such a success, she decided we had to do this craziness again. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know and work with Reagan over the past year and a half or so, and we have overseen every aspect of this conference to try to make sure that you guys all have an amazing day. And really our mission here is to promote gender diversity within tech and specifically with analytics. And we recognize that there are several approaches to doing this. And we think they're all extremely important, and we just wanted to stress that. So one is, of course, which we won't be covering here today, is kind of an early intervention approach, right? So get girls at a young age and other minority groups into tech and exposed to tech, whether that be in second grade or high school. So that's also a very important avenue. Of course, there's venues where you can talk about the issues faced by minority groups in the field. And we think all of these are really important avenues. We really wanted to focus on just giving visibility to women doing amazing things in the analytics field. So we wanted a conference where it had amazing technical and strategic content, and women were really at the forefront of delivering that content. And we also wanted it to be in Columbus. There's lots of great little events in Columbus, and there's bigger conferences too, but people don't really look to Columbus for these amazing events, and they should be. So you don't need to go out to San Francisco to get an amazing technical conference. You can come right here in Columbus, and that was one of our missions. So in that vein, we have sponsored, as an organization, fly-ins from all over the country, and actually we have one fly-in from Canada. Used to the weather, are flying from California. I'm sorry, this is actually a really good weather day for you, so you're lucky. Yes, so that's just a little bit about our mission, and really, like I said, we just want to keep this momentum going in Columbus, and we want women to be very much a part of the conversation. So now with that kind of overall big picture behind us, I just want to talk about some logistics that are important to kind of make the most of your day here. So we do have a conference app. If you have not downloaded it yet, please do so. You can find it in the App Store. It's the Women in Analytics Conference app. That's what you can search for, so the Women in Analytics Conference. You do have to log in with the email you registered with. Little side note. And there's lots of great stuff in the app. Our app has our schedule throughout the day. You can track people, interact with people, and you can also, most importantly, I think, vote for our Data Viz competition finalist. So out just past this main room and to the left, you'll see all sorts you can't miss it. You'll see all the Data Viz finalists. Please visit their visualizations throughout the day, talk to them, then get in the app and vote for them. And you can find the voting under the schedule section, and then you'll see data visualization. So like I said, we have a fantastic day planned for you. All meals are taken care of. Schedules are also on banners throughout the convention center. And we do have Wi-Fi for everybody. So that information, I believe, can be found at registration if you haven't tracked it down already. And there is a coat check downstairs as well if you are lugging around your coat and thinking of what to do with it. So you can go down the escalators and you'll see that. I'd like to just recognize a few groups of people for whom this would not be possible if we did not have their support. So one is our incredible advisory board. So Reg and I, like I said, we oversaw every aspect, but our advisory board was essential for a number of reasons, and that includes Mike Smith, Ben Blancara, Jennifer Bleen, and Dave Cherry. So if you see them today, please give them a thank you and make sure you recognize them. We'd also like to extend a very big thank you to Tech Community Coalition. So TCC is basically our infrastructure. We are a member organization of TCC, which is basically a nonprofit in Columbus that was set up to support groups like us with the financial backing and infrastructure they need. So their focus is on education and charity. It's really a great way to meet others who are leading member groups in town, whether it be a big conference like this or smaller meetups like Our Ladies, Pi Ladies, DevOps Day. So they do all sorts of great things. If you are in a member organization or interested in being with one, you can contact team@tcctech.org for more information on that. And lastly, I think, but most importantly, we want to recognize our amazing sponsors. So there's plenty of ways for you to say thank you to them throughout the day. Until I put on a conference of this size, I may have underappreciated how important sponsors are. This is all literally not possible without their support. And I just want to call out that these are companies that are investing in analytics in Columbus and also recognize the importance of diversity within analytics specifically, this emerging field that is impacting our lives in so many ways. So to extend a big thank you to our sponsors, please visit their booths throughout the day. They're in the hallway. They have raffles, some of them at their booths, that you can enter to win some great prizes. And we will be announcing raffle winners at the end of the day. So get out, talk to our sponsors, engage with them. We'll have some time throughout the day after lunch and during breaks between breakout sessions. So that is mostly what I have for you. And without further ado, I'm going to actually introduce Reagan Avon, who is our founder and co-organizer. And she is going to be introducing Robin Davies from Ford, who's our opening speaker. Thanks, guys. I wish you guys could all see my script up here. It's very formal. Yeah, okay.
Lots of highlighting. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. First and foremost, like Katie said, this is the first time we've held this at this size. We sold out at 450 people, so we're really, really excited about that. We have an incredible and phenomenal list of speakers throughout the day. Like she said, check your conference app or any of the banners outside. They have a list of where they're speaking and what topics they're speaking on. So we're so excited to have Robin as our opening speaker. In her current role as Director of Data Operations at Ford, Robin is responsible for data management and curation of Ford's enterprise data, spanning domains from customer to manufacturing to connected vehicles and autonomous driving. Robin's passion is collaborating with business partners to unlock the value of data within insights and analytics. She's a founding member and co-lead of the Women in Data Insight and Analytics Employee Resource Group at Ford, committed to mentoring and developing future leaders. Robin has an undergraduate degree from Bucknell University and Master of Finance degree from Yale University. Today, Robin will be speaking about the journey to build enterprise analytics. Please extend a warm welcome to our speaker, Robin Davies.
Good morning, everybody. I am delighted to be here this morning. Let me see if I can't. All right. Sorry, Reagan and Katie, I'm going to do that. So I called my talk Data and Analytics, or 3 years later, Data and Analytics at Ford, because 3 years ago, Ford created a data and analytics team. Now, that's not to say that Ford wasn't doing data and analytics for decades before that. But what changed 3 years ago is that we centralized our data and analytics work and decided to take teams, small teams from all over the enterprise, bring them together, and invest in data and analytics at Ford. So what I'm going to talk about this morning is the context for why we did that. I'll talk about where we've been focused over the past 3 years and where we're going from here. Now, Ford's a huge company. And so for some of you that may be in academics or in healthcare, you may be thinking, maybe this isn't relevant to me. But I think what I've found is that there's some things that we've done that I think are probably meaningful to enterprises of all sizes, and I'll try to point those out this morning. Okay. So first, a belated Happy Pie Day. I can tell that joke here. And I share this example not just because I enjoy Dilbert, and I really do enjoy Dilbert, but also because I think there's an important point here. I've been doing data analytics for my entire professional career, which spans over 3 decades. And I can actually remember a time, and any of you who've been working for that long probably can too, when we first had the tools to create simple pie charts and bar graphs. And by taking those columns and rows of numbers and those dot points on a slide and creating those very simple visuals, I was in the room sometimes when we shared those with the people we work with every day, and you could see the light bulb go on over their head. You could see the aha that they were having about, wow, I get it now. Now I really understand what's going on in my business, or now I have a better idea of what to do about it. So while the pie charts are clearly obsolete, the insight that the data and analytics profession can bring to an enterprise is still as relevant today as it ever has been. And I'll talk about how that's guiding us at Ford. But let me start with a bit of context. Why did we decide 3 years ago, why did Ford decide to create a centralized data and analytics team? There were a couple of factors. First of all, automotive is becoming a more increasingly data and analytics business. There's hundreds of millions of lines of code that run our vehicles. If you want to see how far the vehicles have come, they conveniently have an auto show going on. You can walk around and look at 50 and 60-year-old cars. Those were completely mechanical. The vehicles of today are much more automated. They create lots of data. They use lots of data. You have no idea how much data is moving around your vehicle as you drive it. It's fascinating. So there's that. There's also the whole move toward autonomous vehicles. And autonomous driving is really a data analytics and software problem. It isn't so much a nuts and bolts problem, so that drives us toward data analytics. So there's that aspect of automotive. And then there's also the pressures that we face from the external world. And while these are the pressures that we see at Ford Motor Company, I think most of them are common no matter where we work. The first is that change in buyer behavior. So the likes of Amazon have taught us to expect instant gratification. They've taught us to expect that we can click 1 or 2 times and objects will appear at our home, same day, next day, 2 days, just depending on what we're willing to pay for it. There's technology, which is wonderful because it's enabling and improving all of our jobs, but it also means we've got to keep climbing the ladder and keep improving. It allows us to make changes faster and faster. So there's that. There's the pressures. Okay. There's the regulatory pressures. Now, in the automotive space, those regulatory pressures are largely about emissions regulations, CO2 regulations, CAFE standards, so they may not be relevant to you. But in the data and analytics space, we also face regulatory pressures about how we can use the data that's available to us. We face pressures globally with things like regulations in Europe with the General Data Protection Regulation, China Cybersecurity Law in Asia. So we've got those regulatory pressures that are pushing on us. And then we have new players. So because we've got all this technology available to us, the tech companies want to get into the car business. For some reason, everybody thinks the car business is cool. I think it's cool. But so we've got the emergence of somebody like Tesla that makes all electric vehicles. We've got Google and Apple wanting to try to create cars and create self-driving, create autonomous vehicles. And yesterday, driving down here, I heard that Google was experimenting with an autonomous drone taxi in Christchurch, New Zealand, that you'll get into this little pod and it will fly you to wherever you want to go. So just constantly new players and new technologies emerging. That was the backdrop at Ford. So what did we do? We had an initial mandate. Sorry, I talked too much at the speaker's dinner last night. I'm a little hoarse. We had an initial mandate going in, which was to improve the customer experience. Now, Ford spends billions with a B of dollars marketing to our customers. Even if you don't, And so we had to find a way to get a more targeted approach to be much more efficient in that marketing spend. Now, even if you don't spend billions with a B in marketing, improving your knowledge of the customer and getting a more targeted approach will make it more cost efficient for you, and it will also make a better customer experience. And the graphic here shows you kind of how we think about improving that experience. It starts with some very basic information that we might have about you. We call that the I see you when I start to know you stage. So that's name, address, telephone, email. And then we move up and we see how you interact in the world. That might be what's your preferred shopping method. Do you want to go online? Do you like a brick and mortar store? What kind of stores do you like? Do you like discount stores? In our case, it might be how do you respond to any kind of a weak recall or a warranty notice. But if we go all the way up to the top and we get deep, rich insight about our customers, we really can actually understand them and act in a meaningful way on their behalf. And examples of that you might be familiar with would be Amazon says, if you bought this product, you might like this other product. Or people who read these books like these other books. American Express is nice enough to send me offers every month of saying, here's some places that we think you might like to shop. Now, I think people are paying for those too. But it's that idea that they know me, they understand me, where I am in my life, and they can make more targeted offers. Those targeted offers are better for the companies because they're more efficient, and they're better for me as a customer because I'm not getting ads for things that I don't have any interest or use for. And I think the example I'll use of the bad of this is Hotwire sends me ads every day to rent a car somewhere, even when I have no trips planned. So that was our purpose, and those were sort of the analytic imperatives we had. But I want to talk about our approach, because one of the things that we did at Ford, which I think is a little bit different than what some other organizations are doing, is that when we launched the team, I said it was the Global Data Insight and Analytics team, we intentionally paired the data work with the analytics work. And we accounted for the fact that in order to do things like bring this intelligent customer view to life, we were going to have to invest in data, and we were going to have to invest in some capabilities to manage and curate that data. And what that meant was that we went from this, which was we had very slim knowledge about lots of people. It was highly fragmented. We had 40 or 50 different customer data environments in North America. By pulling those together and creating some proprietary capabilities to bring all that data about customers together and resolve it down to an individual, not an account, not an email, but a true individual, we could go from that very slim view of you to better understanding what you did to really understanding how you interact with the world. And that was important for us because we knew if we didn't have these data capabilities, no matter how good our analytics were, if they were based on that picture of the customer in that left-hand column, we really wouldn't get the insight that we need. We wouldn't have intelligent customer interactions. We would still be sending ads for somebody to buy a big SUV 3 weeks after they had bought a Mustang. And we did do those things. We actually did. So that was really, so it was not only the investment in analytics, but we're making an investment in data and enabling capabilities at the same time. So now that we've got the data, now we've got these rich profiles, I talked about these, what did we do? What are we doing? Because this is an ongoing journey. First, it's what we call these intelligent customer interactions. We want to target more effectively, we want to improve the messaging to those targets, and we want to improve the match of the product we offer you to the person that you really are. So we actually are talking to our customers in ways about things that are really relevant to them. The second is really to just optimize the offerings that we make. So now we know kind of what we want to say to you and who we want to say it to is making you the right offer. We have a customer who's bought an Escape from us or bought an Edge from us. Those are our midline SUVs. 2 or 3 purchases in a row. It's likely that person she's gonna buy again from us. So we might need to make her a less offer to get her to come back to us. If we have customers who reliably service with us, they may need less of incentive than a customer that's never serviced with us. So it's figuring that out. And there's also in this a lot of work on improving our forecasting abilities, trying to predict if we do nothing, if we just leave things as they are, what's our sales forecast? And then deciding what should we do if we don't like that forecast, what should we do to change it? And then for us, another important part is service. So after we sell our vehicles, we want people to come back to our dealers and service them. So we can do those same sets of activities. And here's where some of that new data that we're getting from connected vehicles comes in, because now we can actually we can analyze how you're driving your vehicle, if you're willing to share your data with us. And we can tell you when you need an oil change or need brakes based on the actual way you've used your vehicle and we can actually predict when you're going to need new brakes. There's lots of complicated physics equations. It's fascinating. So that's an overview of our focus on customer analytics, managing customer data to try to drive value back to the enterprise. We're really fortunate here because this was part of our mandate. We've got good pull and good adoption from our business partners. In fact, in some cases, they're like, do it faster, we want more, we want it sooner. So this has been, for us, a really big success because we can give our customers those aha moments, those insights, and they're very willing to act on them and use them, and in fact, need to act on them and use them. So that remains, and that still is our highest priority. However, what we discovered as we were standing up this team over a few years is that there were other parts of the business that were raising their hands and they're saying, wait, we could use some help too. We think that we could be more efficient with data and analytics. So there were two major areas that came from. The first is the operations area. And when we think of operations, we think about manufacturing, we think about purchasing, we think about compliance, product development, all of those areas. Where again, because it costs a lot of money to make vehicles, we're spending a lot of money. So think about how to run a plant more efficiently. And so the metric in a plant is jobs per hour. How can I, with the same amount of resources, produce more trucks, more Mustangs, or more cars in an hour? Then there were things like purchasing. How can I get a better understanding of my suppliers and the risk I have with my suppliers? Because supplier risk is a big expense for us. If we don't have the parts we need when we need them, it may cost us money. We may lose sales. If we can't make the vehicles, we might lose sales. So there's a big expense problem there. The other area, which is a new area, an emerging area for us, is mobility. Now, I'm not sure, I'm used to using the word mobility at Ford, so it has a very specific meaning for me. But when we say mobility, it comes from the founding principle for Ford. So when Henry Ford launched the company back in the early 1900s, his tagline, his slogan, was opening the roads for all mankind. And what he deeply believed is that if families could own a vehicle, it could set people free to explore this beautiful country. So it's a really pretty profound and inspiring idea. What we've done at Ford over the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 years is we've really reconsidered what that idea of opening the roads to people to be a more broader view of mobility, of people moving around, to say that going forward as more people move into cities, they may not want to own vehicles. We've got new services like Uber and Lyft. We've got all kinds of public transportation options, and they're growing all the time. That what we really ought to consider is where can Ford help the overall idea of mobility beyond just selling people vehicles. And so the demand from this group really was more of what I call kind of an intel inside. A lot of what we could bring to the market, what we could bring to cities like Columbus, the Smart City Initiative, is powered by analytics, powered by dynamic routing algorithms. And so the help here was help us figure out a little bit of where to play, help us understand the nature of cities. So we've done some analysis on cities themselves, and then help us build some of the algorithms that'll power some of these solutions for us. I'm going to give you, I can't share an example of some of the mobility work that we've done because it's fairly proprietary, but I'm going to share an example of some of the operational work we've done to give you an idea of what I'm talking about and how powerful this is. Because our solution to these people who really wanted help, because we hadn't planned on this massive investment in some of these other areas, was to say, okay, what can we do to help them? And this had a couple benefits from us. So this is what we call an interactive dashboard. Some people call it descriptive analytics, visual analytics. We build these things using ClickView and Alteryx. And the power behind them is, in this particular case, supplier risk is a fairly complicated thing to work out. There's a lot of different components that go into figuring out how risky a supplier is. And some of them don't matter at all if you're 6 or 9 months from the launch, but as you get closer to launch, they become absolutely critical. And to prove to you sort of how powerful this is, how many people in this room have ever worked in purchasing? Raise your hands. Right. So a handful of you. So I would say more than 90% of this room has never worked at purchasing. Now, look at this dashboard. You've never worked in purchasing. I know Melissa's here somewhere. There's very few of you who have ever worked at Ford. And there isn't really a lot of proprietary data on here. But looking at this dashboard, and if I handed this to you and you're a purchasing agent, and you could click on that dashboard anywhere you wanted, can you just, without knowing anything, if I say to you, I want you to reduce our supplier risk, we've got a lot of risk going into this launch, would you know where to start looking? Raise your hands if you had some idea of where to start looking if you looked at this. Right. And that's the power of these interactive dashboards. They were extremely powerful for us at Ford because they gave us a solution we could deploy really quickly. Ford could benefit very, very quickly. Lots of aha moments when people clicked on here, and things people were worried about, they stopped worrying about because now they could see everything was going to be okay. And things that they hadn't been aware of at all, they were like, uh-oh. So it created these quick wins. We were able to drive benefit back to the business, real cost savings back to the business as early as 2015. And it helped the enterprise understand what it meant to have a centralized data and analytics team. So my experience is that we get called geeks and propeller heads and all kinds of other things. And people don't always know exactly what to expect from us or what we can do, and sometimes we're intimidating. And for the people in this room, I've discovered that when the geeks and propeller heads are women, it makes us even a little scarier. I don't know why, but that seems to be the way it works out. So creating some of these dashboards, and this is an example from the supplier space, but we did this in manufacturing, did this in a number of areas, help the enterprise understand what it meant to have an analytics team, how they could take advantage of our services. And in some cases, now Ford's massive and can be a bit siloed. In some cases, we were about to have work like this done by a third party, and we could not sign those contracts and bring the work in-house and do it with the central data and analytics team. So for any of you that are in the early stages of creating a data and analytics practice, these quick wins are really valuable on a number of fronts, and they really served us well as a platform for where to go. So we got the customer analytics, and we were starting to get a plan to get the rest of the demand under control. We're building these dashboards. But what we realized is that we are going to have this ongoing challenge of doing it now versus waiting and doing it right a little bit later. And so we can't, and I suspect many of you see this too. We've been fortunate at Ford because as the work that we've done has started to spread, as people understand what we do and why we do it, demand is greatly increasing supply. And so we've really talked about with these competing pressures and the regulatory compliance, which nobody wants to hear that we can't do something because the lawyers said no. We've got to find ways around it. We said we need a way to work and we need a way to think about this work so that we can sustain it and scale it. And so that we'll be around not just now, but we'll be around for another decade. And what I say about this, and I say this to my team all the time, we don't want to be the people who 5 years from now somebody said, what idiot did that? Because I suspect, and I have too, many of you said this, and at the time, 5 years ago, it seemed like a good choice. So I say we need to think about this work and plan this work in the way that our future selves will thank us. They'll say, boy, I'm so glad they did it. It made this thing so much easier to do. So that constant balance of what do we do now and what do we do later, we've created a framework, and just where we'll help customers solve problems. So we've created a framework that we think works fairly well. So, and note that it includes both the enabling capabilities as well as the analytics and the benefits to the customers. Because we know we have to solve both. If we think we can create a model on a desktop someplace, but we have no way to scale it and implement it, we haven't given any value to the business. So we've said we're not going to focus on the report side of things. At Ford, we are unbelievably good at creating massive amounts of reports. Excel is our friend. So we're not going to focus there because the business already has that figured out reasonably well. And it's not an area where we think we can add value. It's not an area where we think we can bring new insights to the business. You've seen my examples of descriptive analytics, helping people understand what happened and why. It's more of an is, it isn't all that forward-looking, but just knowing what's going on and why it's going on and giving people a tool to take action on it, there's a place that we can add some value. If this question requires seeing what's going to happen next, and what we should do about it, those predictive and prescriptive analytics, so those are areas that we absolutely want to play. But then we still have to ask ourselves, do we have the data, because we're building out a data lake, do we have the analytics governance and the data governance, and can we actually build this model and sustain it? And that's why on that far left side, you see those behavioral analytics grayed out. We've got a team, and again, we're fortunate to be big enough to be able to do this. We have a small group of people that are really pushing the envelope in terms of analytic capabilities. But when the work that they do, they tend to do in a small environment, and it's not till we've really worked it through, figured out how to scale it, that we apply it in one of these, largely in the predictive or prescriptive areas. So it's the customer analytics, the operational analytics, and then the daily tug and back and forth about what to do now, what to do later, how much to do now, how much to do later, that are really driving us on a day-to-day basis. And that's more or less where we've come to in 3 years. Now, I've made this sound fairly simple. Believe me when I tell you, when I walk back there and I pick up my phone, this has been amazingly challenging. But we've kept focused on those areas where we could give our business partners, give the people we work with those aha moments, those insights to understand what's happening in their part of the business and what to do about it. So where do we go from here? What's next? So what's next for us is going to be to continue the customer analytics work and expand it globally. I haven't talked too much about our challenges outside the US, but Ford is a global company, and the expectation is that anything we can do in North America, we can do everywhere in the world. Now, our initial focus was to start here in North America, start here in the US, because it's where our biggest footprint is, it's where we had the biggest need, it's also where we had the most legacy environments that we had to overcome. But this will continue to be something that is a high priority for us in terms of continuing to understand and know our customers better and drive up that and improve that customer experience. And as we bring new customers into this mobility space, because those aren't going to be people who buy vehicles in some cases. Some of our customers may never own or even drive a Ford. As we continue to bring them in, how do we improve their experience? The next piece is really taking that work I described for the operations side, manufacturing, purchasing, product development, and making it sort of the next version of customer analytics, if you will. We refer to this as leveraging the industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT, but it really encompasses all the work to make our operational processes more efficient and more effective, and being able to scale it. The next area of focus is the support for our mobility businesses. This is an area that is the most dynamic for us. It started 3 or 4 years ago. Ford launched about 25 what they called mobility experiments. And some of those grew into things that we now think are going to be full product lines for us. We got a new CEO last year. He created this new mobility group, if you will, with a mandate to go out and develop these new products and services for customers. They're newer than we are, so that's exciting, because Ford hadn't had any new groups in a couple of decades, and now they've had 2 in the past 3 years. So how exactly we're going to work with them is changes and evolves every day. But we stay true to the where can we add value, where do we have the enabling capabilities. In some cases, those enabling capabilities are what they really need. So this is one that's constantly evolving and constantly challenging for us, but also very exciting because it's brand new territory for Ford. So that's what's next for Ford. I'd say then what's next for all of us. So we have I've looked at the agenda, we have an incredibly exciting day with some really tremendous speakers here. And so what I'll say is, if change is a constant, then the need to learn is more important than ever. We have a chance today to learn not only from each other and from the speakers, but to really kind of take that back to our organizations. So I'd ask everybody to take advantage of today, pat yourself on the back for freeing yourself up for what I am sure are many responsibilities outside of here, and spend a day dedicated to learning and growing. Thank you all very much for being here today.
Username password?
It does not, no.
Email?
Just the instructions.
Right, I see that. It doesn't.
I guess Katie is going to take it from here, wherever she is. So thank you so much, Robin. I really appreciate you opening up the conference. Like she said, she framed up a lot of great topics that are going to be covered today. This challenge is not easy. Massive companies like Ford are encountering a lot of these challenges, and we hope to touch on many of those topics today and hope that you get something valuable out of that. That being said, we have 3 tracks today, so we have 3 separate breakouts. There's going to be 4 breakouts total. So just to give you an idea of the schedule, at 10:30 we will have our first breakout in the breakout room straight out of the doors to the right past the data gallery. There's 3 rooms there. There's the Bays room, the Cardinal Health room, and the Query room. And so the speakers will be in there for that next session. We have 3 tracks. There's a technical execution track, a strategy track, and a business track. Those can also be found in the app. And if you're trying to decide which talk to go to, they're also placed on the banners out there as well. So we do need to clear this room so they can get it flipped for lunch. But feel free, I think there's about 20 minutes for break time between now and then. Grab some coffee, grab some water, and we'll see you at the breakout talks. Thank you.